Police brutality is good for business, ladies and gentlemen, and that's why it's not going away. In the wake of the countless murders of unarmed African American men, um, it's been a problem now. Police brutality in the black community has gone on for really ever since black people got here with the slave patrols and the creation of police or so-called patrols to police black people. And these slave patrols existed to protect property because that's what police officers do. They're not here to protect and serve you. And that's actually a Supreme Court ruling. And if you don't believe me, look it up. The Supreme Court ruled that the police have no obligation to protect and serve the public. They are to protect and serve the state and to protect and serve the rich. They don't give a fuck about the public. That's not their job. They exist to protect and serve the public. It's not to say there aren't some cops out there who maybe have some interests in the public and public safety and all this other nonsense which the government and police officers put out there. But again, that is not their job. Their job is not to protect and serve the public, and they have no obligation to do so according to the law. They are here to protect and serve the state and to protect property. So the slave patrols that used to exist a long time ago, they were created to, protect the slave master's property. So when slaves would escape, these slave patrols would go out there and retrieve the master's property. If there be, different blacks, runaway blacks, running throughout the South, those slave patrols will stop those blacks, ask them for their papers, stop and frisk, prove that you're not someone else's property. And 9 times out of 10, they would just take the person back to a slave master, even if the person was free or not, because there's money in it. And they got a lot of money from the slave masters to protect their property. So these slave patrols eventually morphed into the modern day police, who exists to protect and serve the state. And the state is controlled by the modern day slave masters, the businessmen, the white wealthy businessmen who control the politics, control the media, control the culture, control the judges, control the banks, control every single facet of American society. And they want to control their slave holding. They want to control their slaves because black people still are the modern day slaves in this country. We're wage slaves, we're debt slaves, we're legal slaves, we're actually in prison making billions of dollars for these white wealthy businessmen. CCA of America, all these different private prison corporations, telecom companies that charge prisoners like $2 a minute just to make a phone call from prison. It's a business, and black bodies have always been commodities under capitalism. So the issue of police brutality is really one of economics. And again, as I've discussed, if you look at the slave patrols, that was about economics because black people were dehumanized and were considered to be property. In order to justify their dehumanization, a system of racism and white supremacy was invented to promote that, hey, white people, these people are inferior to you. They're inferior, naturally inferior. Of course, it's never explained that, we were inventing this system so we could justify enslaving them and dehumanizing them and treating them as chattel property. But that wasn't explained to white folks. So they just, they ate it up. They're like, okay, they're inferior. I'm superior. But it really wasn't that white folks were superior. They were just given a artificial sense of superiority in order to justify the white slave masters' domination over the black slaves. But there were still white people who were slaves, and they were kind of they were kind of known as overseers. They weren't dehumanized and treated as bad as black slaves, but a lot of white folks out there were slaves themselves, indentured servants, and they were overseers that were kind of controlling the black slaves. But they were still slaves to the ultimate slave master, just like the slave patrols were ultimate slaves to the slave master, because they're the ones that risking their lives and could potentially get killed in order to retrieve the escaped property. But these slave patrols existed to protect the white slave master's property, just the way many cops exist to protect the modern day white slave master, which is the wealthy white businessman, the Koch brothers, Bill Gates, all these other hidden figures that finance the government, finance the politicians, and manipulate elections in their favor. So when we talk about the issue of police brutality, it's an economic problem. It is one which is directly rooted in capitalism. Capitalism, being created through the process of slavery, and through that creation of that system known as slavery, which was a system of economic exploitation, just massive economic exploitation, a system being invented to support that system known as racism, white supremacy. So considering that, police brutality has always been an issue of economics, police brutality is good for business. It's great for business. When you look at the issue of police brutality, it is one that is rooted in capitalism. So capitalism is not going to eliminate the very problem that it created. It's not going to eliminate it. It's going to profit from that problem, because capitalism is a system that creates problems to profit from them. It's not going to eliminate anything. No problem that you see in the world today will ever be eliminated under the monetary system that we live in. No problem. Not poverty, not hunger, not climate change, not police brutality. No problem. It will not be eliminated. It will be profited from and continued, because that's how money is made within this corrupt system that we live in, this corrupt economic system. So as I mentioned, police brutality, it is an issue directly rooted in essentially capitalism. If you exist within a society that is unequal, that is based upon hierarchies, and is based upon domination of one group over the other, particularly economic domination, because when you look at the world today, white folks or white families control all the wealth within this country. They control virtually all the wealth, and they have economic and thus political dominance over this country's wealth. And most of those whites tend to be conservatives, who also tend to be the most racist. So you see again how the problem of racism is rooted directly within the problem of capitalism, because capitalism is a problem. The people who are the biggest conservatives are the so-called biggest defenders of the so-called slave market. I call it slave market because there's no free market. It's a slave market system based upon slavery. The slave market capitalism, aka free market. They are the biggest defenders of that system, and they are usually the most violent racists. So you see how the system of capitalism and racism directly intertwines. So again, if you're looking at the situation of police brutality in the black community, it is one that's directly rooted in income inequality. Number one, the fact that you have so much crime in many black communities is because of poverty. It's not because of black inferiority, because of poverty. Where there's poverty, there's going to be crime. When there's inequality, there's going to be crime. The societies that are most unequal, i.e. America, have the most crime. And also the societies that are most unequal also have, some of the biggest militaries. In order to, and domestic militaries, i.e. police, in order to control all of the negative ramifications which come about of living society that's based upon just rampant capitalism, rampant income inequality, and rampant poverty, which America has on all three levels. So when you have a system that is based upon these different factors, you're going to have police brutality. You're just going to have it, because it is based upon hierarchy, and hierarchies are based upon dominance. And one way to dominate people is to use violence against them. So this whole issue of police brutality has gotten a lot of attention, and what's the solution that's been proposed? Oh, we're going to give police officers body cameras. We're going to give them body cameras to make sure we hold them accountable. Well, if that was a solution, then Eric Garner, would have some justice, some legal justice, because there can be no justice ever be brought about by the criminal injustice system. You can't have justice, when a person loses their life, because you can never bring a life back. So there can only be legal ramifications or punishment for that particular so-called crime, but you can't bring that life back. The life is gone, and and the children and the family of Eric Garner will have to suffer for that for the rest of their lives. That they can't enjoy their father's life and their loved one's life. So there is no justice that will ever be brought about within the system. So the solution: we got to outfit them with cameras. Okay. Now, mind you, like I said, police brutality is rooted in the system of slave patrols, which was created through the system of capitalism, which is based upon slavery. So black people were considered in that system to be inferior, which created the system of racism, which, again, is the true problem here. If that was, an issue, a lack of cameras, then, the cop who put Eric Garner within an illegal chokehold, would be in jail now. But he's not. He was acquitted because of the system of racism, white supremacy, which again goes back to the system of slavery. Okay? So that is the solution that's being proposed. Okay, we got to lessen police brutality by giving everybody cameras. That's not going to do a goddamn thing. It's not going to do anything. Because the problem is racism, white supremacy, and capitalism. Because, again, capitalism does not want to see police brutality go away. It is a problem that is to be profited from. And all the money that's being spent on these cameras is going to benefit some organization. And guess who it is going to benefit? The same company that makes tasers. Because essentially that's what's being proposed here. They are technological fixes to the problem of capitalism and racism, white supremacy. Technological fixes. They're not going to fix anything, but they're trying to use technology to address a problem which technology or a lack thereof did not cause. It wasn't because a lack of cameras that Eric Garner is dead. That has nothing to do with his death. He was killed by a racist cop. End of story. That's why he's dead. Okay, he was killed because of the culture that we live in. The racist and white supremacist culture that we live in. End of story. Okay. He was killed because, or he was initially approached because he didn't have a license to sell cigarettes. Okay. And the fact that he didn't have a license was implemented by Rudy Giuliani because certain merchants within New York wanted to eliminate their competition. Again, getting into capitalism. They want to eliminate their competition in order so they can have monopoly within the streets of New York. So people like Eric Garner wouldn't impede upon their market share. So they went to Giuliani and said, okay, get rid of all these street vendors out here. So Giuliani said, okay, that's no problem. We'll create a law known as broken windows. So anyone who sells cigarettes on the streets, who panhandles, who wants to, wash your car really cheap, homeless people, we're going to arrest them and put them in jail. Oh, and by the way, people that we're putting in jail, oftentimes poor, so they don't have much, but we're going to put them in a jail owned by a rich businessman. So that rich businessman will get to pay them 20 cents an hour, to build panties for Victoria's Secret. So again, you see the connection here. The connection all boils down to capitalism, along with the toxic mixture of racism. So the reason why these technological fixes won't work is because they're not addressing the underlying issues. They're not addressing the root of the problem. But they will benefit the company that makes tasers. And tasers were a new technological fix to the problem of police brutality. It's assumed, okay, well, we don't want cops to shoot people as much, so we'll give them tasers. So what do cops do now? Because, again, they're still operating with those same conscious or unconscious biases. They're just going to tase people repeatedly and say, oh, well, I didn't mean to kill him. I just tased him 20 times, but since tasers are a non-lethal weapon, I didn't mean to kill him. I had no desire to kill him. When, if you look at the fact that tasers are an electrical weapon, okay, they electrocute people. How in the hell can you say that tasers are a non-lethal weapon? If I put someone's finger in a socket, okay, and just put their finger into a socket, I would probably be convicted of first-degree murder, because the prosecutor would say that my intent was to kill that person. So how in the hell can you electrocute somebody and you do not have intent to harm them physically or to not kill them? It's complete nonsense. If you use a taser on somebody, you electrocute somebody, that's going to kill them, potentially. And tasers kill a lot of people. It kills as many people as bullets. Because you're electrocuting somebody, you're stopping someone's heart. Someone gets shot, they may or may not die immediately. People get shot all the time without necessarily dying. Plenty of people have been shot 5 times. They don't necessarily die. Now they get shot in the heart. Good chance they're going to die. Not to say, that guns are definitely a lethal weapon. People know that guns are a lethal weapon, but there are plenty of people who have been shot who have not been killed, oftentimes by police. But there's plenty of people who have been tasered who have been killed because it stops your heart. And once you stop your heart, that's it. If you get shot, it doesn't necessarily stop your heart because your whole body operates on electricity. So tasers are a technological fix. So they're not going to address the root problem. The root problem being capitalism and racism. They're not going to address that. Just like body cameras are not going to address the root problem at all. But what they will do is allow the system to profit from the problem and not address it. So that's all that's going on here. So I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, police brutality is not going away no time soon, particularly against black folks. It's not going away. They're going to give cops all these body cameras. When the cops kill unarmed black men, they're going to erase the footage or just throw the body camera on the ground, just like they do with people who have cell phone cameras. The cops will, oh, you're filming me? Okay, give me the camera. Throw it on the ground. They're not. They're going to get off. They're going to eliminate all incriminating evidence. Okay? And these technological fixes will enrich a few wealthy white businessmen. That's all that's going to happen. Police brutality problem's not going to go away. And that's the nature of our economic system. Don't fix anything, just profit from it. Don't fix war. No, war is good for business. More war. More bombings, more chemical weapons, more nuclear weapons, more defense spending, more war, more genocide. Good for business. Don't eliminate police brutality. Give them more weapons, more tasers, more batons, more tear gas, more tanks. It's good for business. Oh, and give them a few body cameras, to give the illusion that we're trying to fight the problem. When, every body camera equals profit in my pocket. And, and when the cop destroys that body camera, in order to get off from, in order to get up from that crime he committed, by beating that unarmed woman or killing that unarmed black boy, I'm going to make some more money because the governments have to place more orders for my cameras as a result of the cops destroying them, which they will do because, the cops are not going to incriminate themselves. If they do something bad, they're just going to throw the camera on the ground, which equals more profit for that businessman. So you see, ladies and gentlemen, nothing's ever going to ever be fixed under the system. Nothing. Nothing's ever be solved. I don't care about how many people protest, how many people boycotts are great, but how many people protest and have all these meetings and discussions, there will not be any solutions for these very pertinent problems that we have. It's sad, but it's not going to happen. But the problems will be profited from. And you better believe the person who's going to profit from them problems is going to be that wealthy white businessman who controls the government, who sends police out to terrorize blacks on the war on drugs, to put blacks in their private prisons, so they get cheap labor, and get all these government contracts, to build all these private prisons, to fight the so-called war on drugs. You see how it doesn't go away, and it's sad. But I'll say this: if we are to fix the problem of police brutality, capitalism must go. Along with that, government must go. All hierarchies must go. You can't have one group of individuals with all the power, and thus the ability to dictate all the rules and laws, and to have police, enforce those laws. That's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. But I'm here to tell you the militarization of the police will continue. Police brutality will continue. And the reason why the militarization of police will continue is because, the system is about to collapse. So they, the social elites want to enforce their dominance. And that's why they're giving cops all these military weapons. Because, as climate change continues to happen, as the government, goes into more foreign lands to wage more imperial wars, as income inequality continues to rise, as poverty continues to rise, police brutality continues to go unimpeded. People are gonna be mad. As technology continues to make sure more people are unemployed, and the system just continues to just get more and more corrupt, people are gonna get mad. So how do you control all that? How do you keep the masses in check, particularly the black masses? You use violence. You use military weapons. And of course, the military contractors love that. It's great. It's great for their business model. More military weapons that the cops have, more profits that they make. Period. So, sadly, nothing's going to ever happen. But in my opinion, the solution is to eliminate capitalism, create a resource-based economy, in which we're sharing all the world's resources, and there is no, competition, and private property, and there is no property, and bodies aren't commodities. Everything is shared. So capitalism must be eliminated. Government must be eliminated. But government can't be eliminated until you first eliminate capitalism, because government is the armed force of capitalism. So that's the first thing that has to go. Is this infinite growth system, which again will extinguish every single life form upon this planet, every single human being upon this planet, black, white, brown, red, it doesn't matter. It will extinguish everything. Either we extinguish it or it will extinguish us. So those are just my assessment of the situation. Hope you like this video. Please share with others. Thank you again for checking me out, and you all enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.